Practiced at 11 o'clock. We were off the field at 1. The guys came back and watched tape, and as a staff, we got out of here about 6:30, 7 o'clock on Saturday evening, and Fernando was down in the weight room working on his drops.
As always.
So that just kind of tells you where his mind's at right now, and I love where he's at.
And Chandler had some reps with the ones today too. How has he grown in these 8 practices?
Yeah, I think he's doing a good job of handling what we're throwing at him. We're trying to give those guys, an opportunity to work with both groups. At the end of the day, what I told those guys was, your job as the quarterback is to move the football, right? And so put the ball in play. When the box is right, we need to hand it off. When it's not, we need to throw it. And so really, doesn't matter who's on the field. What I'm looking at is seeing, are they making the right decisions with the football no matter what group they're with.
We have reached the halfway point in spring ball. What have you liked about process-wise about the installs, and where do you feel like there still needs to be some development?
Yeah, so the process, the installs are in, which I feel really good about that. Now, obviously, we've thrown a lot at those guys, and there's a lot of retention that needs to happen. And then not only that, just because we call a play one day and it works versus zone, the next day we get it versus man, or we get it versus pressure. So all the variables that go with each play is what we're really going to focus on for the next 7 practices.
Can you talk about Tobias Merriweather a little bit? How he's different from the next guy?
Yeah, just big, long, fast. Really like the presence he provides on the outside. He's done a really good job of coming in here and transitioning to being a Cal Bear, and Coach Toller's done a good job of getting him up to speed. So I like where he's at, but I'm more excited about where he's headed.
He's a big, long road back for Byron Cardwell, and he had some nice runs today, and I don't think he had a real spring in his step. Where's he at right now?
Yeah, he looked good today. That was probably the best he's looked. So I was excited to see that, and I think, that just gives him confidence and gives us confidence to keep giving him more reps and let him get better each day.
Seems like you've had a fairly consistent offensive line with TJ and Siwape and Bastion and
Matthew.
Wyckoff, and then you've had newcomer on left tackle side with Morrow. How have those guys started to blend together after the halfway point practice?
I feel really good about where they're at. I want them to raise the bar, though. I just got done telling those guys, in my opinion, we did some good things last year, but that should be the worst that the Cal offensive line is, as long as I'm the O-line coach here. We have to take a step forward this year, and so that's the challenge for those guys. That's why I'm still coaching those guys. I want to take another step forward with the O-line up front, and they're working at a level to do that right now.
And Victor Stoffel's out so far in
He
spring,
is.
so he's not pushing them. Who else is pushing for reps?
Yeah, Rush Reimer, a guy that came in here out of the transfer portal. He's doing a really good job. I've seen a ton of growth out of Dylan Jimtegard and Trent Ramsey. So those guys have provided really good depth and are competing at a high level right now.
Is Martin getting a little bit closer, or is he still adjusting?
Yeah, Martin's doing good. He's another guy that just needed that development from last year, and so last year he spent a lot of time on the scout team and not as much time with me. So this spring has been huge for him. Every step he takes, every move he makes is being evaluated, and so he's starting to learn that all of that matters, and that I'm going to hold him to a pretty high standard.
How much could Wyckoff see some time at center?
Yeah, he actually played at center today. We're going to have multiple guys that can play center and can snap the football. He did that at Texas A&M before he got here, and we used him at guard last year. But he's done a nice job. Now being in year 2 of what we're doing up front with the protections, with the run game, he can handle the reps at center and guard. But I like what he's done at center.
What do you like about his skill set that fits that position?
Yeah, just his size. It's a different punch in there when you got a guy that's 6'5", 325 pounds snapping the football. And, we want to be a downhill physical run game. And so, that starts with the guy that's snapping the ball and setting the first combo in the A-gap. So I think he could definitely see himself there.
You talk about wanting to see that group get better. What does that look like to you, by the end of spring?
Just the consistency of play in, play out, those guys understanding situational football and being 5 as well. There was too many times last year where we maybe had 4 guys doing a really good job and one guy kind of falling off a block, or letting somebody give up pressure in the protection game. And so the challenge has been how many plays a day can we put together where all 5 of us are grading out at a high level.
The quarterbacks kind of took it on their shoulders on Saturday. They weren't necessarily fully happy with their performance. How do you feel like they responded today?
I think they did a lot better today. And again, we had a new install on Friday, and so we threw some of that stuff at them at Saturday, and then being able to watch it on Saturday with them, come in again this morning and watch it with them, and then come out today. You could tell now it's day 3 of that install. So that's what I want to see, is just growth and development in those guys. You know, we're trying to throw a lot at them. We want to see what they can handle, and so we'll always, you know, trim back when we need to. But right now, it's all about seeing what our guys can handle.
Feels like you have enough playmakers to kind of, and creativity to kind of get them involved. How much you want that to be a part of what you guys do, getting some of those receivers involved in some different things?
For sure. You know, I think you have to do some things to keep the defense on their heels. We're not just going to line up and let the defense see our formations. You know, we're going to play with tempo. We're going to, you know, change our tempos throughout a game, whether it's getting in and out of a huddle, whether it's playing at an extreme rate of speed. But we're going to always try to create and have some explosives and make sure that we're getting guys that need to touch the ball.
How have they dealt with getting in a huddle? Because that's not something you see necessarily in today's game as much.
Oh, they've handled it. They've handled it great. You know, I think they actually sometimes kind of like it. You know, there's times where maybe in these practices where we get on like an 8-10 play drive, and I can kind of sense that, you know, we're getting a little bit tired, and so, you know, now I can talk to those quarterbacks through their headset, and so I'll tell Fernando or Chandler, I'll say, huddle these guys up, and let's make sure that we understand the urgency of finishing this drive, and then bam, we pop out of it and we go execute. So that's been fun, being able to talk to those guys in the huddle and kind of being there with them.
Yeah, how has that helped, or how has that maybe changed kind of the perspective of being a play caller when you have kind of that communication?
Well, you don't want to overload them, and so at the end of the day, we want them to trust what we're telling them in the meeting room, and we want them to play football. But it does help from some situational stuff like that, or, you know, maybe it's a 3rd and 7 inside the red zone, and Coach Wilcox is telling me, hey, you know, if we get it to 4th and 3 right here, we're going. So I can communicate that to the quarterbacks and them understand we don't have to get all 7 yards on 3rd and 7. You know, if we can hand the ball off and go make 4 or 5 yards because they have a light box, then we can put ourselves in a 4th and short and go convert there.
In general, what are you seeing out of this wide receiver group, and how are you challenging them to be different and better this season versus last?
Yeah, I think in general, I think their effort and their attitude's been great. But that only takes you so far. Now it's about them improving in the execution, the techniques and fundamentals of the routes, the top of the routes, coming back down their stem, all the things that are involved in the wide receiver play. But, you know, those guys are willing, they're able, and so it's our job as coaches to make them perform at a high level.
Blocking and physicality wasn't necessarily their calling card last season. How are you hoping to see that?
Well, we've worked a lot on that this spring. You know, we've done some type of perimeter drill. We're throwing perimeter screens. You know, we're forcing those guys to do it probably more than we did last year. And I told those guys, I can promise you, if you can't block out there as a receiver, it's going to be tough to get on the field, because we're going to need all 11 guys invested in trying to move the football. So if that's throwing a screen or throwing a motion pass to a running back or whatever it is, those guys have got to do a great job on the perimeter, because if we can get those yards and compile them with the yards that we're going to get running the football and pushing the ball down the field, then that's when we can be really good.
With the ball control passing game.
That's right.
What are you seeing out of the defense so far this spring where they may have been making an improvement?
Yeah, I think just they've been very multiple. They've kept us on our heels. We're seeing probably every front, blitz, coverage known to man right now, and so that's been great for us, because our quarterbacks need to see that, our O-line needs to see that, our receivers need to feel different route combinations versus different coverages. So it has definitely helped me, and Coach Sermon and I obviously work closely together, you know, getting ready for practice every day. But, you know, I tell him, you know, throw the kitchen sink at us, because we gotta coach them and get them better.
Is it a little bit of a chess game between you and him?
No, I wouldn't say. You know, I've been places where it's like the offensive coordinator versus the defensive coordinator. I think we're both so focused right now on getting our sides of the ball better that, you know, we do communicate about different things, like, hey, you know, we get in this situation, could you give me this front or this coverage? But for the most part, you know, they're installing, we're installing, and we're just letting our guys go play.
You guys had a little bit of a breakthrough last year with 6 wins and going to a bowl game. Do you see the ingredients to push that up a notch to increase the record, increase the wins,
I
get a better
do.
ball?
I do. That is absolutely the goal. We're not planning one bit to take a step back. So that's the urgency that we're working with every day. That's the urgency that we want our guys working with every day. You know, getting to a bowl game is great, but we need to go break out. We need to win a bowl game. We need to go compete for a conference championship. We need to go play in a conference championship. Those are the goals that I have and that we have as a football team.
You mentioned earlier the responsibility of staying onwards with offensive line group. Over the course of your career, have you struck the balance with additional responsibilities like the offensive coordinator position while still maintaining your identity with the offensive line?
Yeah, so I get to the majority of practice. I'm able to be with those guys. You know, the only time I really leave them is during the 7-on-7 periods because I'm talking to the quarterbacks in the headset. I have a really good assistant that's helping me. Coach Layton's helping me tremendously. But you know, the meeting room is where a lot of kind of the mentality, the demeanor, the technique, the fundamentals, the details come into play, and I'm with those guys for an hour plus a day. So I feel good about being able to manage that, and then I get to hop in with the quarterbacks, you know, whenever they come in the afternoons and watch tape and make sure that I'm on the same page with them and Coach Gilbert as well.
Can you talk a little bit about what Coach Layton brings to the game, being new to your offense this year?
Yeah, he's done a great job of coming in here. He's a graduate assistant. He's from the Pacific Northwest. He was at Hawaii last year. He's done a really good job of just coming in and learning kind of what the standards and expectations are in our room. And our guys have really taken to him being an extension of me. So I've been very pleased with him, and I'm excited he's here.
You've worked with Coach Gilbert before. What have you seen in his work with Chim and with Fernando and the other quarterbacks so far?
I think he's doing a really good job, you know, tying their feet to their eyes, getting them through progressions, you know, just the base technique and fundamentals of you know, zone read stuff, power read stuff. I mean, all the things we're doing right now, he's doing a really good job of making sure that they understand what that looks like. And then for me and him, it's such an easy communication that goes on every day in the offices, and he understands what I'm looking for, and I understand how he's going to coach it. So it's been a very smooth transition.
I got an off the wall question. Did you guys have any talk to him about how to prepare if you're looking at the eclipse?
We did not. Is that today?
Yeah.
Okay. Shoot, I live under a rock, man. I'm in the football office, and when I'm at home, I'm swamped. I got 3 kids, got a newborn baby, so I don't even know if I turned the TV on this weekend.
Well, don't look at it directly.
Okay.